I found the photograph among a pile of old, dusty albums in the attic. It had been years since I last ventured up there, and the nostalgia of my childhood was bittersweet. But as I flipped through the pages, a single photo caught my eye, sending a chill down my spine. It was an old, faded image of an elderly woman sitting in what looked like a dimly lit room. She was dressed in a pink shirt, her expression vacant and distant. Her eyes seemed to bore into the camera, or perhaps through it, with an unsettling intensity. I didn't recognize her, yet there was something disturbingly familiar about her face. I showed the photo to my mother, hoping she could shed some light on the mysterious woman. Her reaction was immediate and visceral. She gasped, her face draining of color as she snatched the picture from my hands. "Where did you find this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "In the attic," I replied, taken aback by her reaction. "Who is she?" My mother stared at the photo for a long moment before finally speaking. "That's your great-grandmother, Ellen. We don't talk about her much. She had some issues." "What kind of issues?" I pressed, curious despite the growing sense of dread in my stomach. "She was institutionalized when I was a child," my mother explained, her voice hushed. "She claimed to see things, hear voices. They said she was schizophrenic, but she always insisted it was something else, something darker." I took the photo back, examining it more closely. The room in the background was shadowy, almost as if it was swallowing the light. There was a strange blur near her hand, almost like a motion blur, but more sinister, as if something was trying to escape the frame. That night, I couldn't get the image out of my head. I placed it on my nightstand, hoping that some sleep would help me shake off the eerie feeling. But as the hours passed, I found myself unable to drift off. The darkness in my room felt oppressive, the shadows lengthening and shifting in ways that defied logic. Around midnight, I heard a faint whispering, barely audible, but persistent. I strained to make out the words, but it was like trying to grasp smoke. The whispers grew louder, and I realized they were coming from the direction of the photograph. I turned on my bedside lamp, the sudden light blinding me momentarily. When my eyes adjusted, I saw the photograph had fallen to the floor, the image of Ellen now eerily illuminated by the lamp's glow. The whispering stopped, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed down on me. Picking up the photo, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. In the background, behind Ellen, there was a faint outline of a figure, almost invisible, but definitely there. It sent a shiver down my spine. Was this what she had claimed to see? Unable to shake the feeling of being watched, I decided to do some research on Ellen. The next day, I visited the local library and dug through old newspapers and records. What I found was chilling. Ellen had been committed to the asylum after she attacked her husband, claiming he was possessed by a dark spirit. She became increasingly violent and paranoid, convinced that something was after her. Her claims were dismissed as the ravings of a madwoman. But the more I read, the more I began to believe there was something to her stories. I found her old journal, a small, leather-bound book filled with erratic handwriting. Her entries were a mix of lucid thoughts and frantic scribbles, detailing her descent into madness. She described seeing shadowy figures, hearing whispers in the night, and feeling an oppressive presence that never left her alone. One entry stood out to me. March 13, 1956. "The shadows are getting closer. They whisper my name, taunt me with promises of peace if I just give in. I see them in every corner, every dark place. They want me. I know it, but I won't give in. I won't." The more I read, the more I felt a creeping dread settle over me. The descriptions matched what I had been experiencing since finding the photo. The whispers, the shadows, the sense of being watched. It was all too real. That night, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. They seemed to echo through my mind, filling me with a sense of impending doom. I clutched the photo, feeling a strange compulsion to keep it close. As the hours dragged on, I saw movement in the corner of my eye. A shadow, darker than the rest, seemed to shift and pulse, almost as if it was alive. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched it slowly take shape, forming into the figure I had seen in the background of the photograph. It moved closer, a black, amorphous shape that seemed to absorb the light around it. I could feel its malevolence, a tangible force that sent waves of fear coursing through me. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, and I realized they were coming from the shadow itself. "Give in," it hissed, the voice a twisted, distorted echo. "Join us." I scrambled out of bed, my mind racing. The shadow followed, relentless and unyielding. I felt a cold touch on my skin, a tendril of darkness wrapping around my arm. Panic surged through me, and I lashed out, my hand passing through the shadow with no effect. Desperation took hold, and I ran to the attic, the one place that seemed to hold any answers. I found the box of old albums and rifled through them, hoping to find something, anything, that could help. As I pulled out the albums, I noticed a small, hidden compartment at the bottom of the box. Inside was another journal, older and more worn than the first. It belonged to Ellen, but the entries were different. They were written in a shaky hand, the words barely legible. October 31st, 1955. They came for me tonight. The shadows, they are real. I know that now. They took my husband. He is gone, and I am alone. But they won't stop. They want me. They will never stop. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck, and I turned to see the shadow looming over me, its form twisting and writhing. The whispers were deafening now, a cacophony of voices all urging me to give in, to surrender. In a moment of clarity, I realized what I had to do. I grabbed the photograph and the journal, and I ran to the backyard. The wind howled around me as I built a small fire, my hands trembling. I threw the photograph into the flames, watching as it curled and blackened. The shadows seemed to scream, a sound that pierced through me, and I knew I was doing the right thing. I tossed the journal in after the photo, the pages catching fire and burning away the darkness. As the fire died down, the whispers faded and the oppressive presence lifted. I felt a sense of peace, a calmness that I hadn't known in days. The shadows were gone, banished by the flames, but the peace was short-lived. As I walked back inside, I saw a reflection in the window. Ellen's face, her eyes filled with a silent warning. The shadows may have been gone, but the darkness remained, waiting for another chance. I knew then that this was not the end. The darkness had been a part of my family for generations, and it would not be so easily defeated. It was only a matter of time before it returned, and I had to be ready. The photograph may have been destroyed, but the shadows left their mark on me. I could feel them lurking in the corners of my mind, whispering their promises of peace. And deep down, I knew that one day I would have to face them again. For now, I keep the journal close in my thoughts, a reminder of the darkness that haunts my family. And every night, as I lay in bed, I listen to the whispers, knowing that the shadows are always watching, always waiting.